Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see all of you. I would love to hear where you're calling in from today. Feel free to unmute and just say where you are.
Minnesota.
Amazing.
Wisconsin.
Australia.
Boston. New Orleans.
Emerald Hills in the Bay Area.
Amazing.
Salem, Oregon.
Great. Awesome. Well, did someone say something? I didn't hear.
Sorry, I had to step away, but I don't know if we were doing introductions or not. Are we saying where we're from?
Yeah, where are you based?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Wilson, and I'm with the Las Vegas, Nevada NRCS.
Awesome. Well, great to meet you. I'm curious how many people are new to Hylo. Is this your first time on this community call? Yay. Welcome, Sarah. Good to see you. And I'll say, yay, welcome. I would love to I'm going to do a little breakout room for you to meet, make some new friends, and just share your name and also what group or community that you're either part of or representing. And then we'll come back and begin our community call. All right, here we go. We'll be back in like 6 minutes or so. See you soon. I don't know where
Did you message them?
I did, yeah. I'll improvise.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Good to see you. If you don't have your camera on, I definitely invite you to show yourself because it's so much better when we're all together. Even though it's virtual, but we truly span the entire globe, which is absolutely amazing and a miracle. So for those who are new to Hylo, Hylo is a community-led pro-social coordination platform for purpose-driven groups. Our purpose is to activate the full potential of these groups to create a flourishing life for all, future for all life, a beautiful world that works for everyone. And I think a lot of you here are very committed to this mission. And so thank you for being here today. So I'm currently in New York. I'm Yasmin Albagari. I'm the community steward for Hylo. And we host these community gatherings once a month. And we come together, we learn, we exchange, and make new friends. See what we can learn from one another. So we've got Tibet today, who's going to share some insights from UN Climate Week. We're still here in New York, and Tibet, over to you.
Thanks, Yasmin. Great to see you all. Yeah, been in transit from New York up to Massachusetts. Just got to my family's home. but normally I'm in the Bay Area in Oakland, unceded Chochenyo Ohlone territory, and have been in New York all week for Climate Week, my first time there, which was enlivening, inspiring, also, of course, brings up all different feelings of fear and anger and grief as well about what's happening in our world. But yeah, I thought I would give a little bit of a report back from the sort of Hylo perspective. And of course, there's so much going on there. For those of you who haven't been, it's kind of like flows from the UN General Assembly meeting. The whole city is full of people doing climate related gatherings and events. So there's so much happening. And of course, I was only able to be there for a small slice of it. But yeah, a couple juicy, interesting aspects. First of all, Yasmin helped organize an incredible event on Tuesday called Climate Mic Drop, which was all about storytelling. How do we tell stories that kind of bring more people into the climate movement and, yeah, shift the narrative, shift culture. And I was presenting about Hylo on the climate tech panel, which was interesting because it was one person doing carbon drawdown through different like tech related to working with the oceans. Another person was developing sensors for detecting wildfires quickly and easily and cheaply. And then there was me presenting about Hylo, which, as a software platform is not necessarily what you normally think of as climate tech immediately, but we're building Hylo to, as Yasmin said, facilitate the collaboration and coordination needed to solve the climate crisis and the greater poly crisis and meta crisis that we're living through. So I talked about the ways that we are, first of all, trying to design a platform that just doesn't have the same incentives of for-profit, extractive, big tech and even just profit-driven community platforms and communication platforms that just have very different incentives and are intended to make people money or make the owners of the platforms money or even the creators or stewards of communities. And we have a very different approach as a nonprofit and open source platform that's trying to build technology as and for the commons. And so even just having a different incentive model, we think will produce very different outcomes. But then also we're designing a platform that we are really deeply thinking about how do we help people cooperate with each other and sort of how can the design of tech itself increase cooperation, increase pro-social behavior as groups use it, both within groups and then across groups, because Hylo is not just about creating these siloed groups doing work and doing their impactful work in the world. It's also about bridging between groups, creating networks and movements and the ability to cross-post and create a single post that goes to multiple communities at the same time, and our ability to have groups nested within each other at many different levels of depth. So breaking out of our silos, finding ways to weave. And then finally, I talked about how we have this whole place-based aspect to Hylo, how we want to support local organizing, bioregional communities and groups, which are really finding their home on Hylo. And so this is about connecting people to the landscapes they're a part of, both the ecological landscapes and the cultural community neighbor landscapes that are around them, and starting to build more resilience as local communities, and then also move towards being able to collectively steward the commons, make decisions, distribute resources, use some of the governance tools that we've already started building with our proposals. And very soon, one of the feature sets we're working on right now is participatory funding sort of rounds, the ability for communities to take a pool of money and decide what they want to do with it together in these sort of democratic participatory ways. So yeah, that's a little bit about the panel that I was on in this climate mic drop event. The whole event was incredible. There were super powerful Indigenous grandmothers represented and activist groups and storytellers, filmmakers. Maybe we could actually drop a link with all the list of presenters. So that was one of my days was spent there. And then yesterday I went to a gathering organized by Open Future Coalition, and they are friends of ours, um, people that are kind of on a very similar journey building coordination software for these kind of similar movements, the climate movement and bioregionalism movement. And they have complementary tools. They're more focused on how do groups tell their story to funders and kind of present themselves to the world and measure and do metrics and dashboards. And it was another amazing gathering of all different activists and indigenous leaders and technologists. And they were kind of asking the question, how do we create a commons? Same thing that we're trying to do with Hylo, but common structures, common infrastructure, both social, technical, and financial, to grow all of these movements. And so it's like, how do we actually collaborate? One of the biggest challenges in these spaces that we face too is like there are people doing duplicate work. We want to work together. Usually that kind of interoperability and collaboration is not resourced, and everybody's has their little piece of the puzzle that they're focused on. But we would be so much more powerful as an ecosystem working together. And so it felt like a really profound gathering to take some steps, build some momentum towards more of that collaboration across, in our case, the sort of technology for coordination, for cooperation, for bioregional activation. And so, yeah, it felt like some good progress there. And then I went to a gathering about water that wove in some of the work of one of my teachers, Joanna Macy, and the work that reconnects. So, I won't dive into everything, but overall, it was a really amazing week, and I think something that I would highly recommend participating in the future, and that we would love to host something at in the future as well. And yeah, just get that sort of jolt of inspiration and hope that comes from seeing so many people doing powerful work. Actually, one more thing I'll mention was an event that I went to that my friend Phoebe Tickell organized, which was about creating. Her work is called moral imagining or imagination, and she considers herself an imagination activist. Also working a lot with Joanna Macy's body of work and bringing this idea of imagining a better future to governments and to corporations and places where this kind of like deep time thinking and futurism, positive futurism doesn't necessarily exist that much. Long-term thinking. And so she's doing incredible work. She's inspired a lot of organizations and is starting to grow and wanting to bring her goal now is to have an imagination activist in every organization in the world. So imagine 100 million imagination activists throughout the world, inspiring everyone to think long term, to imagine that we can have a flourishing planet for all. And it was really beautiful. Maybe I'll pause there.
Amazing, Tibet. I'd love if anyone has any questions, maybe we could take 1 or 2 questions from all of you. Yes. B.
Hi there. I'm curious if in my experience of a lot of these events, there are some pretty strong demographic trends, wink, wink, about who shows up and who speaks and who's funded. And I'm just curious if you guys talked about like racial equity or gender equity or equity across the different kind of socioeconomic strata globally.
Yeah, I mean, I only went to a tiny slice of Climate Week, and the events that I went to were very diverse and were very focused on raising Indigenous voices and the voices of people of color, women. But that's, I think maybe speaks more to just the communities that I'm a part of and know of and am connected to. And it was, it felt inspiring. It felt like, okay, people are really like doing the work to elevate these often more marginalized or not as present voices. But again, these were just a few events that I was at. And I think that is, definitely true of the climate movement in general. So yeah, that's the only answer I have. I don't know. Also, Yasmin, you were also there organizing an event, so I don't know if you have any
Yeah, so
words.
absolutely, the climate mic drop intention was really to create a space where we focus on Indigenous voices, women of color, and young people. So like the event, I think we only had maybe 7 like white men come through. It was 120 people, mostly people of color. So it was very much focused to elevate their voices and to create a safe space for them to authentically share. And it was really powerful. I have a recording as well that I can share with all of you so you can listen in to some of these sessions. I'll make sure to follow up on that. Dan.
Yes, in Tibet. I've met Tibet at a gathering in Oakland a few months ago, the Unconference. I don't know if you were there, but at the same time, my question is relative to, you brought up pro-social, and I took a course 5 years ago on pro-social from the authors of the book, and called with that title. And I was wondering if how pro-social is woven into the Hylo, because that's the reason I'm here, is because I think it really has promise for, especially local environmental movements, but then also networking between those movements, like we're doing in the design school for Regenerating Earth, those of us that are setting up bioregion collaboration.
Yeah. Great question, and something we are deeply passionate about, that body of work. This book, Pro-Social, was written by David Sloan Wilson and Paul Atkins, and they kind of built on the work of Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel Prize-winning economist who did all this research on how groups can come together to cooperate and steward a commons well together. And so they took that work and kind of brought it to the modern day a little bit and expanded it a little bit with a bunch of different exercises and practices coming from evolutionary theory and behavioral sciences, and have expanded on these principles. And so there's these 8 principles, the pro-social design principles, that we hold very close to as we are thinking about how we design Hylo. And we're still very early in figuring out how to implement all of these principles within the platform. But the first one is a group that is going to be successful in being cooperative, basically, has to have a very clear shared identity and purpose. And so, Hylo groups, when you first create your group, the first thing you're asked to do is to create a short, simple purpose and then set up agreements. And so everyone who comes into your Hylo group sees the purpose and these agreements. They have to sign off on the agreements. If they ever change, they see the changes and they have to sign off on them again. And that's a very simple way to start bringing people into that shared identity and purpose. There's, other ones of the principles are around tracking kind of what's happening in the group and having a graduated response to kind of good and bad behavior. And so an example of how we're trying to embody that is with our collective moderation tools, where somebody posts something that is against the agreements of the group, anyone can flag it and track exactly which agreement it broke and leave some comments, and that will start to blur out the content. But then other people can look at it and say, do I agree with this? Do I not? We can have a conversation about the moderation of this content. And then, the idea is this starts to encourage stewards to kind of respond with the input of the community in the appropriate way to this behavior. And ideally then, have a kind of graduated way of addressing it or talking to the person and saying, maybe this was not appropriate for this group. Do you want to remove it? Or maybe we'll remove it. But just kind of subtle ways that we're starting to encourage these principles to be embodied. And there's a lot more to figure out. I mean, the other ones are around equitable contribution of, or equitable distribution of contribution and then what you receive from the group. And so we have different roles with different responsibilities that can be distributed. and we want to work on kind of almost like elections, like collective ways of deciding who goes into those roles. And again, the participatory funding stuff we're working on could be a way for the community to decide how to distribute resources amongst people that are contributing to the group. So yeah, we're thinking about all of these things, and there's a lot of work to do to really yeah, put the right nudges into the software to have these principles be really supported. And of course, a lot of it is just going to be about the stewardship of the group and how and what the group's actually doing together, and that the software can't solve all of that, but we can encourage and scaffold these kind of pro-social behaviors.
Thank you. That was very helpful. And evolution of group, you know, that was what David Sloan Wilson brought to that whole notion, is that populations evolve collectively, but that's on the genetic side, but it's also true on the cultural side. So that it's a way to consciously evolve our communities, whether they're communities of practice, which have a locale or don't have a locale if they're more ubiquitous. But I think, you know, going with bioregionalism makes a lot of sense, and I want to figure out how to better use Hylo in the groups that I'm engaged in here in North Bay. So, but I really appreciate connecting to all of the other groups globally. I mean, I was mentioning in our small group that I've been, you know, I was one of the leaders on my college campus in 1970 on Earth Day, and our slogan on that first Earth Day was "Think globally, act locally." And here I am, you know, 55 years later, just now trying to implement it in a real way, and this technology really helps. And I'm really happy that you're working it through and trying to make it part of the architecture. And yeah, so thank you for your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dan. Really glad to have you here.
Thank you, Tibet. Thank you for sharing your amazing insights from Climate Week. Up next, we've got Aaron, who's going to share some early designs, or maybe he's in the works of working on participatory fundraising. Aaron, over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. I was a little late because I was in the zone coding and I stopped paying attention to time. I work on the product at Hylo. I do design, I do code, and I'm really excited to show you what we've been working on and what we will be releasing soon, hopefully in the next month. Let me see if I can share my screen. All right. Can you see this Hylo post? This is a post I made on Hylo. Please check it out. You can access what I'm about to show you through this link here to the Figma. And please leave comments if you have thoughts and ideas about how we can make it better. All right, so one of the, what we think is a big opportunity for groups is deciding how to divide resources as a group. We think that there's like so many groups are needing this. We as Terran Collective have done this many times, and the software that's out there is great, but it's not social. And so here's our idea. And we're doing this in collaboration with the RAF Foundation. They're running an agricultural collective fundraising activity, or actually distribution of funds. And some of the mock-ups will include, kind of dummy projects that are agriculture related for that reason. All right, so these are going to appear in the sidebar in the context menu of the group as funding rounds, or this name will probably be editable, but for now we're calling them funding rounds. And here I've clicked on this and I'm not a part of it yet. I could join it, but instead I'm going to scroll down. And instead of scrolling down, I'm just going to scroll over and just check out more of the content. And here I can see that, oh, not everyone can vote on this one. Anybody can join and chat and comment on the submissions, but only people who are submitting who have this role in the group can create submissions. And only coordinators of the group, that's a specific role inside the roles and responsibilities tab. So like they've been selected by the group to be coordinators of the group. And 54 other people have been selected to be submitters. Not all fundraising rounds will be limited to specific roles in the group, but more to highlight that this is a capability that will be available. All right, so I'm going to join it. Or actually, no, this is a different view. So now we're switching perspectives a little bit to be sort of one of the group stewards. And this is a view to show that, there's the ability to have the draft of the round. So as you're working on it, developing the criteria for submissions and so on, you can just save it and not publish it and work on it with other stewards of the group. Okay. So now I want to show you, we're going to fast forward a little bit. All right. So submissions are open. I'm going to click this button and add a submission. And that'll take me down to a screen like this where I put in the title, the budget, a description. It's a pretty simple form, but you can do rich text, embed videos and things like that. And then we're in a moment where we're discussing. This is a phase of the round. After the submissions have been added to the pool, there's a moment where there's no more submissions accepted, but voting has not yet begun. And this is called the discussion phase. And discussion is in progress. I have this nice way of seeing what's read or not, so I can catch up quickly. I can look at each of these individual projects, and that would look like this, and as we move through the timeline, voting starts. Now I can add my votes. There's two kind of methods for voting, but this is what is kind of similar to co-budgeting, where there's a total number of tokens of some kind. It could be denominated in US dollars, beans, as in this design, or Ethereum. You can denominate it however you choose. It could just be tokens. It doesn't have to represent money. It could just be a way of people expressing what they think is the most important. And then the other way would be to give each person in the group the same amount of tokens, and regardless of how many people join. And that would be less like co-budgeting and more like conviction voting. Okay, what else do I want to show you? Okay, let's do the final. The round is complete. We've made a decision based on everyone's interest. Here's the things I voted on. But based on everyone's interest, this one is the most rewarded. And you can see that they're ordered by how many beans they received. I would love to hear your feedback and thoughts and reactions. Check out the post on Hylo. Thanks.
Ryan, go for it.
Yeah, I love how you're designing to enable people to, empower themselves. That's pretty awesome. I'm just curious what the amounts were in each one of those categories. Is that like what they're trying to raise, or how much they've given, or what's already in the pool?
Yeah. Yeah. So each Am I muted? Okay, no, I'm not. Okay. Each submission has a budget, basically, and that budget can either be filled like this, all of what you just saw could be denominated in dollars, for instance, and we could be allocating actual dollars and meeting that budget. And then, there'd be sort of a one-to-one relationship between the number you see, which is their budget, and the number of which you vote. But in this, it's kind of, it's abstracted into beans. Any other thoughts or questions?
Count of 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you so much, Aaron. That was amazing. Congrats. And it's a good sign when you're in flow and forget about all the other meetings. So, all right, team. So we're gonna spend the next 15 minutes doing a mini ripple effect. So the ripple effect is an asks and offers. So we go into groups of 4, and we each have about 4 minutes to talk about your biggest need and what you want to offer to each other. It's a way for us to continuously support one another, and it's also a feature on Hylo, if you didn't know. So this is just a micro version of it. And I'm gonna recreate the group so that you meet new friends. And let's see. All right, we got it. On a count of 3, I'm gonna open all the rooms, and we'll see you guys back in 15 minutes. Enjoy. Asks and offers. Talk about your missions and what you need most. Welcome back. I would love to hear maybe in the chat, since many of us today, just one insight or takeaway that stood out in your breakout room. Maybe something you learned, just whatever you want to share. I'd love to take 1 minute for us to write in the chat, and that way we can all see each other's response.
Want to write in the chat? What do you want to write in the chat? For the breakup one. Oh, it was fine. It's nice to meet. So what do you
Yes, Kristen, would you like to share something?
Yeah, sure. I just noticed that you know, I always long for more collaboration, less reinventing the wheel, like bringing our own special thing to the table and trying to figure out the way to weave it together. And for that, you need a loom. You know, you need, if you're going to weave a complex rug, you need a loom. And it's a very abstract idea, a loom, right? It's not the rug, right? It's like a couple of steps away from the rug and the particular setting for the rug. So I'm really interested in platforms like these that have that kind of abstractions and know where to start and to finish and how others can weave in what they're doing. And that's my big curiosity coming to this space, is figuring out how all these different, there's like so many gifts and yeah, so much to be offered, but how do we create the skillful marketplaces where those can truly be exchanged and we can build awareness? Because I know I've been part of so many, if we build it, they will come, that it just doesn't work out that way. And I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah, that's, I think that's both my excitement and my question for the group doesn't necessarily need to be answered.
I love that. Maybe Dan has an answer. Let's see. Let's hear.
Kind of a relationship. My wife's been a hand weaver for 40 years, and we have a loom in our living room that she works on regularly. So the concept of weaving is not just a concept to me. I'm not a hand weaver, but I think I think what we're doing here looks, I don't know if people are familiar with what's a technique in basketry called random weave. And you can make a really nice basket. Some of you are nodding your heads and maybe have experience. I don't have experience with one. I've been trying to find one so that I could have it as an inspiration. And the weaves are not in a strict pattern. They're taking single things and just weaving them all together into a form. And I kind of see the pro-social and the Hylo movement as, and I think somebody called it an architecture or structure, but it's very fluid structure. People are coming and going, you know, in their lives and their life histories and in their concepts and all of that. So it takes time to weave a community together. You can't do it with traditional social networking. In fact, yeah, I just don't see that happen. Anyway, I really love that process that we're engaging in here too.
Thank you, Dan. I love that insight. Yes, so much of it for me and for us is about how do we build trust-based relationships and communities across borders, sectors, industries, countries. And because it's through those relationships that we can understand, you know, one, who we are, but also how we can help each other towards that shared vision for a better future. And so to me, is the relationship layer is equally important than just the technology and the mission layer. And so maybe one idea could be the next community call. We focus on getting to know each other more and who we are, not just what we do and our missions. And maybe that, you know, creates a different type of alchemy. So just a thought. I'm happy to facilitate that. I see some thumbs up, so.
Thumbs up.
Love that. Anyone else would like to maybe share an insight or aha moment they've had in their breakout room? Otherwise, we can end together this call. I'm really curious to hear from Frederick. I feel like you're a new face. You seem younger. I want to hear, who are you?
Yes, hello. I'm Frederick and I'm from Germany. And I'm the first time here, as you said. And I'm currently studying sustainable engineering. And yes, I I'm not really sure how I got to this exact meeting because I found it in my email list, but I'm not quite sure how I found it. And yes, I felt quite lost in the the latest time because as I said in my group, the solutions I'm looking for are based on technology to face the climate change we are currently facing. And I feel like we have the technology, it's there, but we are not able to use it. So, or we are not using it. And that feels kind of frustrating. So I'm, yes, struggling with seeing the sense in my study. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you for following the nudge and for being here. We're happy to have you. It's awesome. I would love to, let's see, let's take a group photos if you don't have your camera on, just to capture this moment together. And let's see, on a 3, 2, 1, smile. So let me just send you also the next community call will be October 30th. And let me put that in the chat. Here's the link for Hylo. So if you haven't joined Hylo, this is kind of like where we're all hanging out. So when you join, you'll see like a group chat and you can just introduce yourself and, you know, just whatever question you have. That's kind of like our community circle where we spend time. And let's see, what else? Aaron, any final words before we close off, or anyone want to share anything? Anything exciting that's happening for you this week?
I just, can I share one thing? I just want to thank Frederick for sharing. And it's really meaningful because I understand the older generation has handed a big fat mess to the younger generation. And but I just want to encourage you that the answers it's no accident you came today, because the founders of Hylo and all their connected groups really have the same mindset that you have. And I personally think the answer is both technology, the science, but the people, figuring out the people and how we can work together, and obviously policy change and so forth. So I just wanted to say that because I know it's discouraging, but I'm so glad you joined the call.
Thank you.
Well, I did want to share one thing, which is that the group that Yasmin just posted in the chat, we have 999 members. Whoever is number 1000, we're really going to post some animated GIFs. Yeah, please join us in building Hylo.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you all so much for being here. And again, just remember, we are the ones we've been waiting for. So it's up to us to create the change. And don't give up. Keep having hope. And we're here. We're here to support each other. And Hylo is committed to building the tools, but also to weave all the different groups and communities together. So any ideas are welcome, and feedback. We're here for it. All right, off we go. Have an amazing day, everyone.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You, Tarek.